Welcome back. Now, young people in Africa are more determined than ever to make the continent a better place. That's the finding of the 2022 African Youth Survey conducted by the Ichikowitz Foundation. Afro-optimism and personal, including entrepreneurial ambitions, remain high, with job creation, governance, as well as climate change being young people's top priority. So to unpack all of this for us, we're now joined by the Foundation's Youth Director, Thami Pooe. Thami, good to have you, and good morning to you. Let's talk about what this survey aimed to achieve. When you conducted this survey and this report, what is the mission or even the vision behind this?
Thank you very much for having me this morning here, Tumelo. Yes, so in terms of the vision, mission, the aim of the survey itself is that we seek a vehicle that's going to actually engage the youth. Because I think we've realized, I think across the continent, governments, large organizations often find themselves in situations where they speak about youth but don't actually engage youth in the first instance. And so what this survey is a live platform where we are able to understand the needs and aspirations of the most important demographic of the African continent and the biggest demographic of the African continent, which happens to be the youth. And really the aim is to use all this data and information that we gather every 2 years from the continent's youth to affect policy change, to affect those who are eventually going to make decisions that affect the continent and thereby affecting young people themselves, to do so with a better platform and real-time information from this incredible demographic. So really, that's it. It's about engaging young people, and it's about leveraging this information to drive exact change.
Yeah. So what have you discovered from the survey? What are young people in the continent ambitious about? What do they say?
All right. So there are a number of things, right? There are a number of categories that we look for or that we scope for in the survey. And I think the big, broader anchor category is this notion of Afro-optimism, right? So we think about Afro-optimism as this notion of being optimistic about the continent's future and seeing this century as the African century globally, right? And so there are a number of categories that are broken down in us actually viewing what Afro-optimism look like. We look at, issues such as democratic ambitions, issues such as how young people feel about the environment, how they feel about their own personal ambitions, political stability, and all these kinds of things, right? What we found interesting about Afro-optimism in total, I guess before we get into the actual nitty-gritties of the survey, is that since we've done the first survey in 2019, there has been a marked, a decline in Afro-optimism among young people, a decline among Afro-optimism concerning the future of their own individual countries, and there's been an 11% decline in total about Afro-optimism concerning the continent at large. And this has a lot to do with COVID-19, actually, and some of the subsequent things that came about as a result of COVID-19, right? COVID-19 is an infectious disease that came with quite a bit of death, and there was a question around whether or not we have the proper health infrastructure to handle such widely spreading pandemics. 2, there was the issue of job losses that began to be rampant after COVID-19. 3, there was the issue of access to education not being as universal as we would have wanted it to be among young people and across the continent. And these are some of the factors that have definitely influenced a decline in Afro-optimism in general. However, what's important to note, though, is that young people's personal ambitions remained powerful, remained strong, right, amidst this decline in ambition for the continent. Yeah. So what do I mean? So young people, for example, highly ambitious about their own entrepreneurial endeavors and their opportunity to take their career and future into their own hands, as opposed to relying on large corporations and industries to absorb them. We have a situation also where young people are also, willing to emigrate out of the country if it means that that's the best way for them to actually gain proper employment and accelerate their career going forward. Right. So we're not sitting with a continent of young people here that waiting to be passengers as older leaders of the population drive them forward. No, young people want to take their own future into their own hands.
Yeah.
And I think the correlation between them, advancing their own personal ambitions and potentially, running for office later in the future.
That is so interesting, Thami, and I think that's why that percentage, around 42% of young people by 2030 will be African, and then seeing the survey expose the fact that they want to rebuild this continent, they want to be a part of the change, makes that even more insightful and amazing. I have to leave it there due to time, but thank you so much, Thami Pooe, for joining us and sharing insights from this survey. Thami Pooe from the Ichikowitz Foundation, and he's the youth director there.